You've eaten almost everything the ocean has to offer: tuna, salmon, shrimp, crab. You've had octopus, even though it seemed to stare back at you from the plate. You've eaten fish with names you can't pronounce, pulled from waters you'll never see. If it swims, chances are, somewhere on Earth, someone has cooked it, salted it, fried it, and called it dinner. And you probably wouldn't think twice. But there's one animal in that same ocean that almost never reaches your table. It isn't rare, it isn't hard to find, it isn't small. In fact, it's large, muscular, full of meat, and it lives in warm coastal waters all over the planet, often just a few hundred feet from where people are swimming. By every practical measure, it should have become food a long time ago. And yet, you've almost certainly never eaten it. You've probably never even seen it offered for sale. The dolphin. So, here's the question. That's stranger than it first sounds. Dolphin meat isn't some forbidden mystery. Humans have eaten it for thousands of years. Some people still eat it, right now, this year. It can be grilled, dried, stewed, and sliced like any other meat. So, why did most of the world push this single animal off the menu while happily eating almost everything else that lives beside it? The answer isn't taste. It isn't even really about the dolphin being special. It's about three things hidden underneath your plate, and by the time you understand all three, you might feel a strange kind of relief that you never took a bite. Let's start with something that trips up almost everyone. A dolphin is not a fish. You know this, somewhere in the back of your mind. But stop and feel what it actually means. A dolphin breathes air, the same way you do. If you held it underwater long enough, it would drown, just like you. It gives birth to live young. It feeds its baby's milk from its own body. It's warm-blooded. It's a mammal through and through, which means when you cut into dolphin meat, you don't find the pale, flaky white flesh of a fish. You find dark, deep red meat. It looks far more like beef than like seafood. So, already something feels off. This sea creature has more in common with the cow standing in a field than with the tuna swimming right next to it. And your brain, without being told, files it into a different category. Not quite fish, not quite food. But that instinct alone has never stopped hungry humans. So, let's keep going, because the next fact breaks the whole idea that we don't eat dolphins in the first place. Because some people absolutely do. Travel to a small coastal town in Japan called Taiji. Every year, in a hidden cove, fishermen drive pods of dolphins in from the open sea. Some are sold alive to aquariums around the world. The rest are killed, and their meat ends up in local markets, sometimes packaged and labeled as something else entirely. So, the buyer doesn't always know what they're really holding. Now, sail thousands of miles north to the Faroe Islands, a windswept cluster of rocks in the middle of the North Atlantic. There, an entire community gathers on the shoreline for a hunt called the Grindadrop. They drive pods of pilot whales and dolphins into the shallows, and the water turns red in a matter of minutes. It's not done in secret. It's a tradition that stretches back centuries, passed down like a family recipe, older than most of the countries you can name. And along the coast of Peru, dolphin meat has been eaten for years, sold under a nickname that hides what it really is. They call it sea pork. So the honest truth is this. It's not that humans can't eat dolphins, or won't. It's that most of us stopped. Some cultures never did, which turns the whole question on its head. The real mystery isn't why nobody eats dolphins. It's why the rest of the world walked away from a meal that others still fight to keep. And the first reason is the one you're already feeling in your chest. Think about how your mind pictures a dolphin. You don't picture food. You picture something smiling, leaping, playing in the wake of a boat. You grew up with dolphins as the heroes of the ocean, the ones in the films, the ones who supposedly guide lost swimmers back to shore. And this is the unsettling part. That warm feeling isn't just childhood sentiment. It's pointing at something scientifically real. Dolphins are among the most intelligent animals on Earth. They can recognize themselves in a mirror, a test of self-awareness that most animals fail completely, and that human babies can't even pass until they're well over a year old. They call each other by name, using a unique signature whistle for every individual in the pod. They form lifelong friendships. They've been seen staying with their dead, refusing to let go. They cooperate, they problem solve, they teach their young. So, sit with what that means for the plate. When you eat a tuna, you're eating a fish. When you eat a dolphin, on some level, you are eating a mind. a creature that knew its own name, and most people, without ever reading a single study, simply feel that line and refuse to cross it. It's the same instinct that makes eating a dog feel wrong, while eating a chicken feels ordinary. The closer an animal feels to us, the harder it is to swallow. But this is where the story turns cold. Because if this were only about feelings, it would just be taboo, and taboos break easily when people are poor or hungry. There's a second reason, a harder one, and it isn't in your head. It's inside the meat itself. To understand it, you have to follow a poison up a ladder. Picture the entire ocean as one giant staircase of eating. At the very bottom step, tiny plants and microscopic organisms soak up traces of a heavy metal from the seawater. There's always been a little there naturally, and human industry has poured in far, far more. Small fish eat those organisms. Bigger fish eat the small fish. Bigger fish still eat those. And this is the trap. At every single step up the staircase, that metal does not leave the body. It gets stored. It concentrates. Each level up carries the load of every level below it. Scientists call this bioaccumulation. In plain terms, it means the higher an animal sits on the food chain, the more of this poison it carries in its flesh, packed away for its whole life. Now, ask yourself the obvious question. Where does a dolphin sit on that staircase? Right at the very top. A dolphin is an apex predator. It can live for decades, and it spends every one of those years eating fish, that ate fish, that ate fish. Each meal passes its poison up the chain and into the dolphin's body, where it settles into the muscle and stays. So by the time a dolphin is fully grown, its dark red meat isn't just meat. It's a lifetime of concentrated toxin, stored in a single animal. And this isn't a theory. It's been put under a microscope. When researchers tested dolphin and whale meat being sold for food in Japan, the results were alarming. Some samples carried mercury levels many times over the legal safety limit for human food. Certain tests came back at more than 25 times the allowed amount. A few individual samples were so contaminated, the numbers were hard to believe. This is, quite simply, one of the most mercury-heavy things a human being can put in their mouth. And mercury is not a poison you just pass and forget. It isn't like a bad meal that's gone by morning. Mercury hunts the nervous system. It builds up in the brain and stays there. In high enough doses, it steals your coordination, blurs your vision, numbs your hands, and eats away at your memory. And in a pregnant woman, it can cross into the growing baby and damage that developing brain before the child has ever opened its eyes. If that sounds distant or exaggerated, the world already lived through it, and this is the part most people have never heard. In the 1950s, in a Japanese fishing town called Minamata, something began to go wrong with the animals first. Cats started to convulse. They would stagger, spin in circles, and in some cases hurl themselves into the sea. Locals called it the dancing cat disease, and nobody understood it. Then it came for the people. Fishermen and their families began losing control of their bodies. Their speech slurred, their hands shook. Some went blind. Babies were born with severe disabilities they had done nothing to cause. The source was a chemical factory that had been dumping methyl mercury straight into the bay for years. That mercury climbed the exact same ladder we just walked up, from the water, into the fish, into the people who ate the fish. Thousands were poisoned, many died. An entire town became a warning, written in human suffering, all from mercury climbing a food chain. The dolphin sits at the very top of the same chain, carrying that same poison in far greater concentration. Now, put the two halves of the story together, and feel how they close like a trap. The animal you feel a strange kinship with, the one with a name and a mind, is also, silently, one of the most toxic meals the sea can offer. The very thing that makes a dolphin magnificent, a long, clever life spent ruling the top of the ocean, is the exact same thing that fills its body with poison. Its greatness and its danger are the same fact. Intelligence made us not want to eat it. Chemistry made sure we shouldn't. And if you still doubt how serious this is, look at the people who never stopped hunting it. Remember the Faroe Islands with that centuries-old tradition. Their own health authorities eventually studied the meat their people had eaten for generations. And then they did something remarkable. They told their own citizens to stop. Scientists recommended that Faroese people eat little to none of the pilot whale and dolphin meat their ancestors had lived on because the mercury and other toxins in it were high enough to threaten the health of children and unborn babies. Think about what that means. A culture built around this hunt was warned by its own doctors that its oldest food might be poisoning its next generation. That's how dangerous this meat really is. Not a rumor, not squeamishness. A hunting people told by their own scientists to put down their traditional meal. And then humans did one last thing to seal it. They wrote it into law. In the United States, it is flatly illegal to hunt, kill, capture, or harm a dolphin. A law passed in 1972, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, placed dolphins and their relatives under national protection. So, for most Americans, the reason they've never tasted dolphin isn't only the feeling and isn't only the toxins. It's that the animal has been made legally untouchable. The choice was quietly made for them before they were even born. So, lay all three answers side by side, and the mystery finally dissolves. We don't eat dolphins because they feel too much like us. Minds with names, too close to family to become food. We don't eat dolphins because their meat is loaded with an invisible poison that has already crippled whole towns. And in much of the world, we don't eat dolphins because the law simply forbids it. Notice what's missing from that list. Taste. Not one of those reasons is about flavor. A dolphin was never inedible. Humans didn't skip this meal because they couldn't stomach how it tasted. They skipped it because of everything the meat is wrapped around, the mind inside it, the mercury hidden in it, and the meaning we've draped over this one animal above all the others in the sea. So, the next time you sit down with something from the ocean and you eat it without a second thought, remember what you're really doing. You're standing at the top of an invisible ladder, deciding which minds count as food and which count as family, choosing which poisons you can see and shrugging off the ones you can't. The ocean laid almost everything it had in front of you, fish beyond counting, creatures beyond naming, and out of all of it, this was the one animal you were quietly taught to leave alone. Not because it couldn't feed you, but because somewhere along the way, without ever deciding it out loud, you agreed it was worth more alive, swimming beside your boat in the morning light, than it could ever be on your plate